They still have issues, and they're like, what's going on here? We know there's something here, we just don't know what it is. And so they keep looking at this, and they're trying to figure it out. But this is the power of a small ember, is they can't see it, but they're trying to deal with it. And here's what happens here. Look at that.
Oh, jeez.
That just look. The fire is gone. The wildfire is gone. This now house is on fire. Now they're trying to figure out what the heck's going on.
Welcome to the All Things Wildfire podcast, where we delve into the latest trends and hot topics in protecting properties against wildfire. So sit back, relax, and join us as we arm you against disaster.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us on another episode of All Things Wildfire. Today I have a realtor, a real estate guest here. His name is Christian Fuentes, 27 years in the industry, brother, right?
Yes.
One of the top RE/MAX brokers in the area, top 5 best teams in Southern California, badass. Thank you for joining us, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. Good to be here.
Thank you. Now, so Christian, we deal with wildfire issues, okay? Specifically with insurance. And so reading a lot of the articles, I already see like some deals could be falling through because the homeowners are trying to figure out, or they're figuring out in escrow, hey, we got a major problem. Now we have insurance that has risen. And I've got some nightmare stories of homeowners that have already had insurance and then it doubles, triples, quadruples. But I'm interested, what are you dealing with on the front side? Homeowners are excited. They're about to buy a house. How's that process going? And what happens when it comes to insurance, premiums, and what's taking place, brother?
Yeah, no, I think, something we've been dealing, I would say for the last year that we saw some big changes. And you're right. I think it's, a couple of things. One is that there's a lot of homeowners that cannot renew their insurances with the same company. So companies are actually telling you, nope, we're not insuring your home anymore. You're in a specific area, fire hazard area. We're not giving you insurance.
Yeah.
So here I get a lot of clients calling me and saying, Christian, what do I do? My insurance is going to cancel me, right? But then the problem is now they're looking for new companies and now their insurance is double, triple, quadrupling, right? So that's a problem. Now, the concern I think we have now, but I think we're being proactive, okay? So just know, this started happening. So now we're getting quotes of insurance right in the beginning when we do a sale. You used to get the insurance quote towards the end.
Yes, I remember.
Right? It was pretty standard.
Yeah.
The fees and the cost.
Yeah.
But now, we pretty much have to do that up front, right? Yeah. Right away from the beginning, figure out what the insurance cost is. And again, a lot of companies are not insuring, so the buyers have to go out and get insurance to California Fair Plan, which is the one that's actually insuring, and they're costly.
Bro, not only are they costly, Christian, like what I realize being on the claim side, when we have a homeowner that has a California Fair Plan insurance, there's so many limitations that the homeowners are not aware of until you have a claim.
Yeah.
And that's when it becomes frightening. People are like, I can't believe it. My insurance company sold me this policy for water damage, wind damage, etc. But for fire, it's California Fair Plan, and now they're not covering much at all.
Yeah.
So it can be scary, man. I have one customer. It was Hidden Hills. We were doing a lot of work there from the Woolsey fire that took place, and she was a friend of mine, and she had probably a 6,000 square foot estate. She began to introduce me to her friends, and she's like, all my friends need to have deodorization and clean the houses. Christian, we're literally setting up equipment on all these houses, her house. We're beginning the process. We're talking to the insurance companies. We're beginning dry cleaning services because the clothes start to smell like smoke, really heavy, right? Mm-hmm. So we're taking all the clothing out of the home. We are beginning the deodorization process, cleaning the duct systems, removing the insulation from the attic because it's all full of smoke. But when I'm talking to her insurance company, they're like, hey, man, we're the Fair Plan. And I'm like, oh, shoot. So we start talking about what we're going to do. They're like, yeah, that's not covered. That's not covered. Jeez. This isn't covered. That's not covered. All of her friends, they got paid to stay in another house while all this work is being done. She did not.
Wow.
That was not covered. So, it was so stressful, bro. So we ended up doing some things for her for free just to kind of get her back in the home. Yeah. But the Fair Plan, not very fair.
Yeah.
You know, but it's the last resort.
Yeah.
Right. What can people do?
Yeah, and then the cost too. I mean, I'll give you a scenario. We had a deal recently, a couple months ago. Buyers in escrow, ready to close. I mean, maybe again 2 weeks before closing, didn't look at the insurance earlier. Lender approved the loan, and next thing you know, the insurance actually went up. I think almost 3 times what they were supposed to be paying. Right.
Whoa.
That was the difference between qualifying for that loan and not being able to buy the house. So literally, the buyer ended up having to cancel that transaction.
Wow.
Because they couldn't afford the payment due to the insurance.
Wow.
Because
it was that significant.
It was that significant because it was in an area that was a high fire zone. They didn't check into it, and the deal ended up falling apart.
Wow.
Yeah, and the buyer, anyways, didn't want to pay that much, anyways, for
Of
that
course.
insurance, right?
Yeah,
he wasn't aware of it.
What does that do for the seller? Like the seller now is like, what am I going to do now, right? So, I guess as a realtor, you're like you said earlier, you are pushing the insurance conversation right to the front, right, of the conversation to say, hey, we know that this insurance is going to be $20,000, $40,000 a year, so people are more aware and prepared.
Yeah, no, you have to bring that up, but at the same time, I mean, you know, buyers are looking, okay, if I have to add another $200, $300 a month on an insurance payment, I'm not going to offer you full price anymore.
Right.
I want to either get a credit towards the insurance, or I want to make sure that somehow I'm going to offset the cost, right? Which is lowering some prices. In some areas, not everywhere, but in some areas, prices will come down because of the insurance being so high.
Yeah.
I mean, there's such a high premium.
What are sellers saying about that? Like they're having to negotiate the price down. Obviously, they're not happy about it, but are they understanding?
Well, look, I had another scenario. I'll give you a scenario. I had same thing. Same buyer looked early on, looked into because, you know, typically when you buy a house, you have a timeline. There's a contingency period for you to do inspections.
Right, okay.
Typically, you get about maybe 10 to 14 days. This is when the buyer has the right to do all the inspections, investigations, check insurance. We should do it during that timeline.
Right.
Check the association, check all the cost fees, condition of the house, do an inspection, check the roof, check the plumbing, right? That's your timeline.
Yeah.
Buyer checked insurance, checked with his own company, couldn't get insured by their own company. They had a pretty, they had just sold a house, so they had a low rate. This insurance was going to be, you know, probably double the amount, and he was not having it. So he actually, we were able to negotiate for the buyer. So we were representing on the buyer's side,
okay,
not the seller's side. We were able to negotiate for the seller to credit the buyer the money, which we calculated was about $200 more a month that he was going to pay for 5 years.
Oof.
So that he can at least feel like, okay, I'm getting a credit for the insurance. I'm going to pay extra that I don't want to pay for.
Like
right?
20 grand, yeah.
So it was, about 2,000. With 2,000, no, it was 2,000. About 10 grand.
Okay.
$2,400 times 5. Yeah, so 10,000 something, I think it came out to.
Okay.
5 years.
Okay, for 5
right?
years.
For 5 years, not 10 years, 5
Okay.
years.
Okay.
So, and the buyer was happy. So I think this is the things we have to do. We have to
Yeah.
negotiate, figure out, okay, what is the buyer okay with? This is what you have. They wanted the house really bad. I can tell you they probably would have bought it anyways, but
Yeah.
these are ways that you can maybe negotiate some cost in the event that you do come up with some extra.
You know what's
extra
interesting?
fees.
I remember, and maybe it's still happening now, but a lot of money was being invested to stage the house. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, is that still happening?
Yeah.
Okay. And I feel like part of the conversation now that realtors can have also is like, hey, Mr. Smith, not that there's a choice, but if there was a choice, hey, instead of staging the house and spending, I don't know, how much does it cost, $5,000?
Yeah, depending on the size
Right.
of the house.
Okay.
Right? Could be between 3 to 5 to 10 even.
Okay. So $5,000 to $10,000. Instead of investing that money there, let's invest it in making your home more wildfire resilient, so that way the insurance companies can be friendlier, right? And I wanted to share a couple of things with you, Christian.
Yeah.
So let me share this. There's I know that AB 38. You guys are dealing with AB 38,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you have to have someone the fire department do inspection for high fire severity zone, and they have their inspections, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me give you an example before I show you the video. Realtor called us a week ago and said, "Hey, I'm the buyer. Someone already came out and did an inspection for AB 38. This is the fire department. They're doing their vegetation management, right?
Yeah.
Home hardening.
Yeah.
We get out there, and we are providing a wildfire assessment, but we are geared towards wildfire science and insurability. It's different from AB 38. We put together the report, gave recommendations. The seller's agent calls, and he's not happy, man. Right? And I get it.
Was this commercial?
No, residential.
Residential. And they asked for that.
Yeah. The homeowner just reached out to us and said, hey, can I get a wildfire assessment from you guys?
Got it. Just they wanted one themselves.
Just wanted to double check and make sure, because she wanted to make sure that how am I going to do with insurability wise, right?
Okay.
And the seller's agent called and said, hey, we already got the fire department to say this is approved. And we have a fire marshal on our staff, and he basically said, look, that's what they do. But we were called out to talk about insurability in wildfire science. We got to install resistant vents. The homeowner should install these things. There should be this other type of management in order to get the insurance company to look at that home more favorably. And so now the selling agent understood, not happy, and I don't know what's going to happen with that. But I just want to show you the differences here.
Yeah.
So when this is a quick example. So this is our fire marshal. His name is Rich. Are you able to turn the volume up on that, Vincent, or no? So I'll just tell you, these are two. There you go.
Yeah. This
This
structure
is-
on the left was an
Okay.
unhardened standard structure with bark mulch, and to the right is our hardened structure.
So we built both of these.
Oh, got it.
Okay. Now this
To
is
do the
for,
demonstration, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is for IBHS, which stands for the Insurance Business.
Insurance Institute of Business.
Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety.
Okay.
Jeez. Okay. So they do a ton of studies on like earthquake, they do hurricane, everything. Part of what they've been doing for the last 10 years is wildfire. So we built these structures, and what they show is on the left side, that home had a wood fence, okay, right up to the house. It had some shrubs and vegetation up against the house, and it had bark mulch on the floor.
Oh.
And on the right side, 5 feet away, no vegetation,
Yeah.
and it's gravel, and there's no wood fence.
Okay.
Okay, and so that's part of what takes place there, and so that's what makes the difference with regards to what the insurance companies look for and what they don't. So check this out. Here's a high speed of that. They drop some embers onto the bark mulch.
Yeah.
On the right side, 5 feet away, you're going to see there's no wood fence touching the home, and you have gravel on the right side. And the left side is bark mulch, and you see how these small little flames begin to take over.
Yeah.
And so this is what the insurance companies look for. They say, hey, if there's a wood fence touching the home, chale, we ain't doing it. Or they want the fence out.
Yeah.
If there's shrubs up against the house within 5 feet, they want those vegetation out of there, because they realize that there was no big flame that caught this house on fire. It was a small little ember that continued to ignite over time, and then it took over the house.
Yeah.
So that was good research that they did. I want to show you something here that this was very significant for us to be able to see. I'm going to speed this up a little bit,
Yeah.
so you can kind of see, but I'll set this up. There's a wildfire back there. You see where the smoke is back there, okay?
Yeah.
And so that's what's going on. Thanks, Vincent. And you see it back there. You see the little smoke coming from the house?
Yeah.
Okay. So the fire department is driving by, like, hey man, what's that little smoke? Let me just handle that and take care of it. So they shoot it with water here, and then they take off. Then another guy comes back and says, I still see smoke. He throws some more water on there. A whole another time later, there's more smoke. You see it?
Yeah.
They keep coming
Under.
to it. They're like, hey, what's going on here? They're not sure. Okay. By the way, the wildfire is already on. It's gone. You see, there's no more smoke back there. They're just dealing with this now. And they're like, hey, let me hit it with some more water. Let me see what we can do. They still have issues, and they're like, what's going on here? We know there's something here. We just don't know what it is. And so they keep looking at this. They keep looking at this, and they're trying to figure it out. But this is the power of a small ember. Is they can't see it, but they're trying to deal with it. And here's what happens here. Look at that.
Oh, jeez.
That just look. The fire is gone. The wildfire is gone. This now house is on fire. Now they're trying to figure out what the heck's going on. So now they're all dealing with this house fire because these small little embers attacked it. And look at that, bro. Isn't that crazy?
Crazy.
It's incredible, man. And so these are the kind of things that when we look at it, we understand, hey, man, there's a lot of risk to be in the high fire severity zone, and you have to be prepared. Right. And so removing mulch from 5 feet from your home is golden.
Yeah.
Removing vegetation, please do that. But check this out. And this is what I want to show you because we live in Chino Hills, and you see, this view is pretty common, right? We got hills there.
Right.
And so this is a small grass fire that took place. And grass fires, for the most part, they're not going to do much. They're going to be able to control them. But what happens is this thing gets away from them. It starts to get onto some larger vegetation that's close to the house. And so that shrub that's there is a common shrub that's in our hillsides.
Yeah.
And there's 40 feet away, bro, of concrete from that shrub. That's how much the fence line is, right? The property line. And what you'll see here in a second is that shrub catches on fire and it produces some massive, massive flames that begin to impact the home. You're going to see here in a second, these flames typically get up about 3 times the size of the shrub. So if the shrub is 7 feet, 21, look at that.
Wow.
Look at that. And so now, and there isn't much wind here, but can you imagine if there was wind like we've been seeing here the last few days?
Yeah.
So this thing ignites, and then you start to see like the siding on the house, just from the radiant heat, begins to get impacted. It starts to welt and melt, and then the gutters start to drop off the house. But like if you look on the left, there you go. Yeah. And so windows are being impacted. But man, like this is the stuff that for us, we see it, and living in the hillsides like we do, we have to be mindful of that stuff, man.
Yeah.
You know? And so if we have a wildfire that hits our area, we got to realize like we got to do some things about it.
Yeah.
You know? So
can I tell you something though?
Yeah, please.
Because we don't actually do this kind of inspections when we sell a house.
I know.
You know that, right?
Yeah.
We don't do that.
I know.
We do an inspection. The inspector, never calls out any maybe fire hazard or, the termite will call out section 2 like this could bring more termite, remove that tree, right? But there's never a fire inspection. This is all new to me, and we sell about 1,400 houses a year. We never do this, right?
Yeah.
The inspection doesn't ask for it. The insurance don't ask for it. They don't ask for these inspections. They should. I think it's something smart to do, right?
Well, it's interesting, bro, because we get asked. So the insurance companies call us and say, "Hey, we need you to do an inspection," and the brokers call us.
But not every house, right?
Not every house.
And is this a particular insurance company, only like specific insurance? Because most of them don't.
So right now, Christian, every insurance company is looking at
to do this?
Yes.
Okay.
And so what's happening is IBHS, they have partners. Farmers is one of them. Mercury is another one. Auto Club is another one, I think. Maybe Travelers too. But so right now, Farmers is sending out letters to people. And you might be getting some calls too, or your friends and family telling you about this, or past clients. Farmers saying you have to become IBHS approved in order for us to give you insurance. And the IBHS approval is anything 5 feet away has got to come out.
Got it.
You got to install ember-resistant vents. And I'm going to show you in the warehouse when we do a walkthrough what we're doing with ember-resistant vents and what that looks like. And we've got a place here where we train our guys on how to install, retrofit those vents. But there's so much that has to be done to make the home have a better chance to survive.
Yeah.
So there's things that could be done, but the carriers, man, they're getting a lot more strict. What'd you say, Vincent?
Yeah, no,
As far
I think for something like this, we have a realtor actually that is asking the seller for credit on home hardening work. So exactly everything that you see from the video, they want to prevent that. People are getting educated on this. And then so now, before they finish closing the deal, the buyer goes and gets an inspection from us. We get all the numbers for them. They present that to the seller, and now they're asking for seller's credit.
Right.
On all the work.
Kind of similar to what you were saying.
Would this be mainly on a fire hazard area or just any area?
Mainly fire hazard area, bro.
Yeah.
Now, the tough thing, though, Christian, is that the map of the high fire severity zone, it really depends. It's not necessarily the map that CAL FIRE puts out. The insurance companies have their own maps, and they have their own ability to say, hey, to us, this fits within a high risk area, right? So, do you remember this house?
Yeah, your house, right?
That's my house. Yeah, you sold it to me, bro.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I remember.
Yeah. So you see the shrubs over here?
Yeah.
Okay. That's, I shouldn't say illegal, but that is not acceptable anymore.
Got it.
It's too close, right? So let me show you what we did. So we are the first home in Southern California. They got the Wildfire Prepared Home Plus designation from IBHS. Okay. So this kind of shows you what we were doing to get that designation. I'll show you some of the vents that we've replaced there. So here, you see how I cleared that off? So now there's nothing. So now when the embers fly and they hit the house, they're going to drop down, and there's no dead leaves. There's nothing that could ignite. Right? So that's kind of the idea behind that aspect of it. And it doesn't look really sexy. All right? It's not attractive.
Doesn't look bad.
Doesn't look bad.
Not at all.
This is what we're up against, brother. The embers. The embers will attack you. You see the little attic on top there?
Yeah.
The attic spaces are the ones that are going to allow the embers to go in to the house. And so here, what we've done is we've installed wildfire mesh on the inside of the attic. So now embers cannot go in. This is an example of, this is a 1/4 inch standard gable, and embers can fly in. And they'll ignite the house, and now sometimes you don't even know the house is on fire because it's igniting from the inside. And here's another example of the vents. These are called O'Hagan vents. You see how they're different colors? That's a vent that looks like a tile, but it's the same thing. Those have to have screening in order to prevent embers from going into the attic, right? Then we get into, so we also spray fire retardant, and I'll show you that in a second. This is the gutter guards coming up.
What is it called again? What you called it? It's a certification?
Yes, it's called Wildfire Prepared Home.
Prepare home.
And so,
Certification.
yes, and so we actually have been working with them for years now. We're one of the assessors, and that's why Farmers calls us. Because on their website it says, hey, if you need an assessment, call Allied. We go out there and we understand all the requirements that they have.
Right.
And we do a checklist and say, hey, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith, in order to qualify, here are the things that you have to do to get the certification.
Got it.
One of the things to get the Wildfire Prepared Home Plus is to do these gutter guards, right? So now when we put these gutter guards in there, you don't have leaves building up in there anymore in the gutters, because if the embers are flying, they could take down, they can ignite the leaves that are in there and then cause a problem. And then lastly, we're doing this. We're spraying the hillsides. So this is the same fire retardant that is deployed, that's red from the when there's a wildfire from the planes.
Yeah.
Except that it's clear.
Yeah.
So now we're able to go from home to home to home and spray the vegetation. So that way it doesn't ignite.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that we're doing to help homeowners be able to get insurance.
Now, certifying your house with that, would it, one, lower insurance cost? Not really. Or sometimes the companies might say, I'm not going to give you insurance unless you do this, and then you get access to insurance. So is that happening?
Yeah. So with farmers specifically,
Yeah.
if you don't do it, they drop you.
Got it.
Okay. And they will give you a small credit. It's very small.
Right.
It's not even worth, even saying that there's a substantial credit.
Got it.
We're just lucky to get insurance right now. You know what I mean? The credits will come when more competition shows up.
Yeah.
And when the Department of Insurance in California come together with the insurance companies and come to a really good agreement. Right now, it's still pretty lopsided.
Yeah.
It will be lopsided for a few years from what people say.
What do you think the average cost is going to be for a homeowner to be able to do
Good question.
that type of work for
Yeah.
them? Right.
It could range from $3,000 to $20,000 depending on what their issue is. If they have a deck, it's more complicated. If they have like a jacuzzi, it's more complicated. Like there's some limitations, man, that if you have a lot of things on your property and they're too close to the home, boom, it becomes red flag.
Got it.
And now you got to do something about it. Or we have one customer that we visited yesterday. He has a tree that's within 5 feet of his home, and it's beautiful and it's huge. And he's like, I'm not taking it out. I'm like, okay, well, I get it, right? And that's going to cost $10,000 just to remove the tree.
That's a big cost.
And he loves a tree, so he's not going to do it. But so he's going to battle now with his premiums going up, going with a different insurance company because the carriers are saying, I'll take you, but you're going to pay me a lot more.
Got it.
And so for me, what I wanted to do, and I have State Farm, I wanted to, because we're doing this work, and I thought, if I'm going to do this work, I need to like live it too, right?
Yeah.
And so we began doing it. I have the certification, and now I got renewed. But State Farm also announced that they're leaving California. Yeah.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, they announced that like 70,000. I forget how many people. They're not gonna write anymore or renew. So I'm holding my breath, and I don't know what I'm gonna do when it comes to February. I'm gonna be taking my certificate and saying, "Hey, who's gonna take me, man?
Who wants me?
Who wants me? Who wants me?" But those are the types of things that we're up against when it comes to homes, and in your case, real estate transactions and insurance. So let me ask you, with regards to when someone's going to be getting insurance, like you said before, back in the day, that would be one of the last things that you think about to say, oh, by the way, let's hook up the insurance, right? And I have insurance brokers right now saying to high net worth, some of our high net worth clients, so they're saying, hey, the difficult thing is that these homeowners are buying houses on the cliff, overlooking all the vegetation and all these areas on the hillsides. And the last resort of thinking about it is exactly that, insurance. But some of these people are stuck with hundreds of thousands of dollars in premiums. And what are, like, do you have a percentage of sales that you think fall through as a result of this insurance problem? Is it pretty small right now still?
I think it's pretty small. I wouldn't say it's a big problem now. I mean, I think, remember, you're buying a house, right? I think, if anything, the lender right away needs to be proactive and start checking on, okay, is there an association? If there's a Melrose, what's the insurance, right? So, I mean, we already know that premiums are higher.
Yeah.
So I think they're now adding that right away from the get-go to make sure that that's accounted for. But I think, again, this is kind of newer within the last year that this started happening. Also, remember that premiums can go up for different reasons. Could be that the fire hazard area, or it could be because they have some claims already in the past, right?
That's right.
So there was just recently we had a deal that same thing, the insurance weren't insured because of recent claims that the seller had in the property. So the insurance company said, we're not touching that. So again, now the buyer's looking for other ways to get the insurance, and it's going to be a higher
That's interesting, Christian, because you're right.
insurance payment.
They're able to identify how many claims have taken place on that property. And so now as an insurance company, they're able to go and look at the history and go, chale,
Yeah.
like we're going to pass on this. Or your premium is going to be so much higher.
Higher. Yeah. So that's a big factor too.
Interesting.
And part of your disclosure, when you're disclosing as a homeowner, you have to disclose any insurance claim you have had in the past.
Okay.
Right? So that comes up right in the beginning. Buyers should right away get an insurance quote, figure out if they can get insurance or not, or which type of insurance, which company will insure it. So I definitely say that you do that within the first 10 days of buying a home.
Got it.
It is taking longer now to get quotes because you used to be able to, give a phone call within 24 hours. You had a quote.
Yeah.
Right? And it was done. Now it's taking almost close to 2 weeks because they actually are having to go to the property. They're asking for pictures. They're doing aerial. They're doing walkthroughs. There's a lot more to it.
And the underwriters are taking forever.
And they're taking way longer. And so you are not getting quotes as fast as they used to.
Got it.
Yeah.
Christian, do you have any people calling you saying, hey, my insurance premiums are skyrocketing. I can't afford this house anymore. I want to sell it.
Not so much like that, but I think, I can tell you, I would say last 12 months, 60% of my clients all moving out of California. Insurance up, crimes up, right? Cost is up here. It's just people can't afford California anymore. So I have a lot of people leaving, clients leaving, going to other states because of just California is just becoming a pain in the ass to live here. So, and part of that, it's like everything's going up, including the insurance.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything, brother.
Everything's going up.
And the traffic's not getting any better either.
Nope.
Oh, man.
Traffic. Yeah. We were just talking about multi-unit. People
let's talk about that. Let's talk about the investment properties.
Yeah, people are not happy with all this laws, rent control coming up, right?
So explain the rent control problem, like from the new law that just took place. If you're an owner of a complex, what was it like before and what is it like now?
So I have a perfect scenario. I buy a property in Pasadena, 2021, a fourplex, right? I buy it for $1,025,000. 4 units. It's worth about 1.4. Older seller wanted to get rid of the property, did a off-market deal, and I was gonna flip it, right? Buy it, flip it. There was some issues with it. I was gonna spend about maybe $50,000-$70,000 to do some work to it, and then put it right back on the market. I closed in September, right? And this is probably it is my fault for not being on top of what was going on in Pasadena. November, Pasadena passes rent control. They never had rent control before. Just passed, right?
Okay.
So I'm buying a property, basically, and at that time, because of COVID, there was still some
forgiveness.
Yeah, or evictions, right?
Okay.
Moratoriums, right?
Yes,
you couldn't
yes,
get people
yes.
out.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, that was going to come off 2022 was going to come off in the beginning of the year. So I was like, okay, I'll buy it. I'll keep the tenants there. Put it this way. The tenants, there was 4 tenants, all of them there over 10 years. Some 15, some 20 years there. One guy was paying $1,100. Actually, 3 people were paying $1,100. One lady was paying $700.
Oh, my.
Right?
In Pasadena, bro.
Pasadena, brother. 1 bedrooms, 1 bath, right? Laundry, garage.
Okay.
Rent should be $2,200.
Easy.
And that's why, of course, I offer less because we have to deal with tenants. Typically, you buy a property, you give a 60-day notice. They move out. Maybe you give them some cash for keys. You work something out to help them out. And then you remodel the place, and then you rent it for $2,200. November hits, rent control. I can't get them out.
What do you mean you can't get them out, right? Okay, rent control means specifically what? Like, does it mean that they have to stay at that same rate, or does it mean you can only raise it?
You can only raise it 3% a year. So imagine now how long it's going to take me to get it to actual market rent. 2, because they've been there for over 10 years, can't get them out. Can't do a 60-day notice. You can't ask for it unless you're going to live in it. If I'm an investor, which I am, I basically have to negotiate cash for keys.
Oh my goodness, brother!
So I got stuck with the tenants there. I was able to get a couple of them out. One I had to pay $24,000 or $25,000. The other one $30,000, and they ended up moving out. 2 are still there. They don't want to move out. They're there, and I can't get them out. Right.
Oh, man.
So and you think about it as an investor, I'm looking at, okay, I can rent it for $2,200. That's 4 units.
Yeah.
You're making, 8,000. What's that? $9,000 a month. Numbers look good. Now here I'm stuck with 2 tenants. One's paying $700. The other one's paying $1,100. I ended up making the 1 bedroom, 1 bath. I made it into a 2 bedroom, 1 bath. So it's about to lease for $2,400.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to increase the rent there, but not much I can do, brother.
Oh,
Not much I can do.
That's gotta be
nothing
painful.
we can do, right?
so is rent control everywhere now? Is it in every county?
Every city is different.
Every city is different. Okay.
Every city is different. So it's not every city that has the same laws, but it's just now the problem is, you have your city council and then they vote on the laws that they want to apply for tenants. And sometimes you get some crazy stuff that passes and that becomes the law in that particular city. Then you can't do much about it. So now I'm stuck with that. There's places in LA right now. In LA, because I have a house that ended up wholesaling, an investor bought it. But we found this out afterwards that if there's a tenant living there, and I believe it's also over 10 years, and if they're over, I think it's 65 years old,
Okay.
you can't get them out. Like literally, no cash for keys. If they have low rent,
You're not allowed to.
You're not until they die.
Come on, man.
You can't get them out. They're there until they die, and then you can take possession of the unit. So it's just crazy laws that they're passing, right?
What if they begin to default on their rent?
That's different.
That's different. Okay.
But see, that's the thing. People know already. I'm paying $700 a month. I should
Yeah.
be paying $2,000. They never default.
Never.
They make their payment. They don't do
They're
anything
happy.
bad.
Oh.
They're making sure they take care of the property good. So that's not the problem. It's just that you can't get them out. You can't get them out if you stop paying rent, but they won't because they know they have a good deal, right? They also know that if they take a cash for keys for $24,000, that if they're paying $700 and now they have to pay $2,000, they're like, no, I can be here for 5-10 years and pay $700. Why am I going to get 20 grand?
Right.
They might take 50, they might take 60, 70, but then at that point, it doesn't financially make sense, right?
Wow. So are you? Obviously, you're a lot more cautious now when you're going to be buying multi-unit.
I'm buying out of state.
You're buying out of state. That's the new
I'm not
plan.
buying anything in California anymore.
No.
Personally,
Yeah.
I'm looking out of state. I'm flipping in California, so I'm buying houses, I'm remodeling, and I flip them.
Got it.
That's a 4-month, 5-month turnaround, maybe 3 months, depending on how much work we do on the house. But my properties now that I'm buying, I'm going to be buying more out of state.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Now, Christian, I think you and I have talked about this. I've flipped, I don't know, probably 10 or 15 homes in my time, but what I was flipping is a lot of fire damage, right? Mm-hmm. You started flipping some fire damage too, didn't you?
No, I haven't done any.
Oh, you haven't?
No,
Okay.
no fire damage.
Okay.
You know what? And it's funny you say that. To me, it's just too much work, right? Too much work,
Yeah.
and it's a longer process.
Yeah.
A lot more money. So I haven't done any fire damage ever, and I done over 400 flips, right? In my time, I just did a house that was a growth house.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was fun, but it took a year.
It took a year because there's a lot of water damage in those too, brother.
There was yeah. So when I bought it, they had already done all of the remediation. So the
Okay.
owner got red tagged by the city. Growth house in Chino Hills.
Wow.
Beautiful area, right? Growth house, 2,400 square foot house. I ended up buying it from the seller. They had already done all the remediation, which was good. It's called remediation, right?
Yes,
With
yes,
the,
sir. Yep.
The whole cleaning and
Yep.
all that. House was basically ripped to the studs, right?
Yeah.
Insulation out, drywall out, AC vents out. Everything was basically
Wow.
electrical, right?
Got it, yeah.
I've got it. So I had to do all electrical, all new plumbing, all new drywall, insulation. Roof was fine. So when I bought it, it was already done. We
Got
just
it.
had to do everything through permits with the city, and it took a while, right? And even at the end, like we were done, and then at the last minute, we were already in escrow with the buyer, and then we couldn't get the electricity on, right? And then we finally are like, Edison, come on, what's going on? And they're like, wait, hold on. Oh no, this was a growth house. Oh no, we still got maybe a couple more months to make sure we check all the wiring, all this and that, because we need to make sure there's no issues with the wiring. I guess the wire that goes down from the house to the actual street.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Yeah. Because people actually cut the wires there, so that way they don't, or they jump it. So everything's being done illegally as far as the power.
Everything.
So
Just need more power.
Did you sell it?
Yeah, I mean,
It's close?
it's going to close, but it took almost a year.
Man.
Yeah, and we were going to make a good profit on it, but it was a lot more work.
Got it.
We thought, but still, we make good money on it.
You know, that property that I sold, the lot
Yeah.
that you had a client that bought it from me.
Yeah.
The story behind that was a wildfire that took that house out.
Oh, okay.
And so I was doing some canvassing and I was sending out some letters. And so a homeowner says, hey, yeah, I think I'm interested in selling my house to you, OP. It's burned to the ground. I said, okay. But I look at it always from the insurance standpoint, right? Because that's my lane. I understand it. And so I said, great. How much did they offer you? She says, they offered me $400,000 to rebuild the house. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, hold on a second. It's not going to cost $400,000. So I said to her, here's the deal. I said, what would you say the price was the day before the fire? She goes, and the husband and wife, they're like, probably about $1.1 million. I said, okay. I said, if I give you $1.1 million for this lot right here, do we have a deal? And they said, yeah. I said, great. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to get the insurance company to pay the right number, and whatever is short, I will pay you the difference. And they said, great. Brother, I got them $850,000.
Wow. And
I've just paid the difference.
Right.
And then they're happy, right? But it's because I understood, hey, look, the carrier really, they owe you more, right? This is just the first check they're giving you.
Yeah.
And then you say goodbye, and then you deal with all the headaches that come with building a fire damaged home. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what's attractive to me, is to be able to pick those things up and then help the homeowner out. Right. Like they were going to be stuck in a really weird situation.
So you can negotiate those offers from the insurance.
And I don't know if I would call it negotiate. I think I wrote the estimate for what's true.
Got it.
They wrote an estimate to say, we think it's about this much.
Right.
Here you go. And I'm like, okay, hold on. I went literally to a neighbor's house. I measured the entire home. It was exact same floor plan. Yeah. Very similar finishes. And then wrote up, I don't know, probably 200-page estimate. Yeah. Room by room, every light fixture, if they had carpet, if they had, baseboard, whatever, all that. Right. And so, because that's the world that I live in, I understand, like, this is what the insurance companies need to see in order to justify it. So then we put the estimate together and go, here you go. And they're like, okay, let's talk now. And then that opened up the lines of communication. Yeah. So, but Vincent, you had some other questions, man, regarding investment properties, because you were saying that you wanted to buy. You're like, hey, man, I see these deals, a fourplex that looks like it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, I'm just seeing so many more multi-units getting listed every single day in California. And for someone that's new like me, it seems very appealing when you start seeing, like, this looks pretty affordable, like $300,000, $200,000 per unit sometimes. And that was my question there, is like, why are so many of these homes popping up?
Yeah. And there are more coming, and I think it's again for that reason. There's rent control coming in California now, a lot more laws in different cities. So sometimes you see a fourplex looks very cheap, right? Great price, but then you're going to realize that most likely you're going to have a really hard time getting those tenants out, if you can get them out. Or let's just say you find a fourplex for $1.3 million, right? That puts it at what, 300 or so and change, right, per unit. But you might have to pay the tenant $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 just to get him out.
Yeah. To get the rent to be a reasonable rent.
Well, to get that tenant out, rehab the property, and then move a new tenant out. So now you're looking at let's say it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, right? It's a beat up property. Tenant pays very little, so they're gonna want $25,000, $30,000, $40,000. So you got to spend that. Tenant moves out. Now you gotta put another $20,000, $30,000 to fix this property that's probably trashed. New kitchen, new baseboard, new carpet, right? Bathrooms, redo the whole thing. So now you're spending, $50,000, $60,000 times 4. That's another $200,000. So there's a lot of expenses there that you gotta think about, right? So it might look like a great deal, but then you have to look at the whole picture and figure out, okay, is this something that I could? Number one, do I want to deal with the tenant? Do I want to do 2, 3, 4 evictions? Oh. Do I want to do 2, 3, 4, 5, cash for keys with tenants, right? Yeah. Do I have, tenants paying or not paying? So there's a lot to think about and understand.
So what if you were going to bring someone, a new tenant in, right? Let's just say that you were able to give cash for keys. Now you got a new tenant coming in. Mm-hmm. What are you doing different to protect yourself from some of these crazy things that are taking place?
Well, when you screen a tenant, I mean, you got to make sure you run credit. That shows you what's going on with at least you get an idea of the tenant itself. I always look for credit, job stability. You check their income, right? We actually ask for W-2s. You check their IDs, make sure everything looks good. We actually check their social media just to see if they're not crazy weirdos, right? You'd be surprised sometimes the stuff we see on some people.
Yeah, like, Vincent, you better check your stuff, bro.
Like,
okay?
Like, honestly, like we have gone, let's say we get 4 or 5 applications and then we have the top 2 and then we check social media, like what's going on with these people? Are they cray-cray? Are they cool? Are they nice? Are they normal? Right? And there's times that we're like, no, we're not going to, accept this type of behavior or whatever we see, right? That's not okay. You could do a background check too on tenants if you want. I don't always do that. Actually, I don't do a background, but we look at that. And then, of course, we show the property and we want to make sure we have good energy, good vibes with the tenants, right? Right now, you are getting a lot of people applying for rentals. And I think it's because, again, there's a lot of people looking to move and there's not a lot of inventory, right?
And most people can't afford a home right now in California.
And they're renting. And rents are high too. Right now, rents are really high. Highest we ever had. So at some point, then you go with your gut feeling and you take the right tenant, right?
And then you do a lease that's going to be 12 months.
Yep.
And nothing more than that.
Typically, it's 12 months. If they want 24 months, why not? Let's do it. But the thing is, remember, if I get a property, I get a tenant out and I re-rent it. Now I'm renting it at a much higher price, which is market value. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So market value, property has been remodeled. I'm gonna get a good tenant, and goals for them to stay long term, right?
Yeah.
I'm not looking for a tenant to be there for a year and move out. I'm looking for someone that's gonna say, Christian, I think I'm gonna be there for 3, 4, 5 years, and then eventually I'll buy a house, right? But if I get a tenant that says, you know what, I'm just gonna be there for a year and then move out because I want to buy a house, well, typically a tenant moves out and I have to do a little bit of work, fix it up, and now find a new tenant. So I am looking for long-term tenants.
Got it.
Right? The longer the better.
Yeah.
So sometimes if I'm looking at applications, I have multiple, and I know there's a family that wants to stay there longer, that might be the reason why I pick them, because I feel they're going to have a little more stability there.
Yeah, and take care of the place a little bit more too.
Take care of the place too, right?
Yeah. So, bro, you're investing in other states. Where are we going? What's happening?
So I'm looking at Texas right now.
Okay.
Houston. Possibly Arkansas.
Kansas?
Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Wow. Arkansas.
Wow.
Looking at some stuff there.
What about Arizona, Nevada? Is that too close or too high?
Know what? Too high, and I want to be in red states. Tenant-friendly states. Because honestly, that's the problem.
It's all politics, man.
It's politics, brother.
Yeah.
There's some states that to get tenants out, a pain in the ass, and there's some states like Texas and other places that you can pretty much, they work with you. I mean, they're investor friendly, you could say, or just normal standard laws, right?
Yeah, they were accustomed to.
You can get people out, and there's not so much regulation.
Yeah. And kind of like putting a bow on this conversation, the regulation with the Department of Insurance has caused this problem that we're having with insurance companies. Yeah. Similar to what you're saying, there's rent control. I think Prop 103 was when the California Department of Insurance created this with insurance companies where they could only raise their rates a certain percentage at a time. And when they started to have catastrophic losses with wildfire, they kept wanting to raise rates beyond that. And the Department of Insurance like, no, you can't. And they're like, dude, we're dying. Yeah. Like, we're paying all this money out. We're getting this very little back in. This is a bad deal. Yeah. So similar to investors who are now stuck with rent control and people that are taking advantage of them is kind of a similar situation that's been taking place in California.
Oh, yeah. Not to mention California, the prices are so high. You can't cash flow on a property. You put 25% down. with insurance, with the rates so high, there's no cash flow. Like you literally are just breaking even, or you might be negative, right? I mean, it's very hard to find a deal that you can make.
Let me ask you, how long ago were you able to put 25% down in cash flow?
So we bought a lot of properties back in 20. I mean, shit, man. I would say before 2018, there was very good opportunities.
Yeah.
I personally think there's just the prices just went way too high, right? But even that, I mean, the rates. I mean, right now you're getting 7%, 7.5%.
Yeah.
I mean, those are units, commercial. I mean, when the rates were lower, I mean, it was better. So I think a combination of high prices, high rates, rents are high, which is good, but still you can't cash flow.
Yeah.
So unless you're doing it for maybe a 1031 exchange and you're, or maybe for cost segregation or depreciation or something that, to offset some taxes, maybe that makes sense. But honestly, I think overall, California as an investor it's not a good.
They're not friendly anymore.
Not friendly, not a good return on your money.
Yeah.
So as a new investor or want to be a homeowner,
Give him some hope, Christian. Give this guy some hope. He's a young man.
I see a lot of people always talking about the first-time home buyer, like 3.5% down. Like, is that even like still worth it anymore? Because I know if you put 3.5% down, your mortgage is like $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, right?
Yeah, I mean, but again, depends on the price, right? But look, I think if you do that's an FHA loan, right? First-time buyer, 3.5% down. I mean, look, if your goal is to buy a property. And don't get me wrong, I think buying a property and having other units to offset the cost, I think is a great idea, right? So I'm not saying not to do it. What I was saying is make sure you understand what's the situation with the other tenants living there. Can you get them out? Now, as an owner-occupied property, you can actually get people out because you're going to say, well, I'm going to occupy these units. One's going to be for me, one's for my mom, and one's for my brother. If you have that, you can actually get people out. As an investor, that's a different story. We can't just buy a property and get people out. Now we have to pay them, give them cash for key. So you do have some benefits buying it as an owner occupied. But here's a scenario: you buy a property for $1 million, a triplex, right? You put 3.5% down. That's what 35 plus costs. Let's say you're spending $50,000, right, out of your money, out of pocket. I mean, you're getting a loan for $950,000 at 6%. I mean, that's pretty high payment, right? But that's going to be what you're financing. Let's say $950. I mean, your payment's going to be somewhere around $75,000 to $8,000, right? It's pretty high. But if you have 2 units that you can rent for $2,500 and get $5,000, well, now your payment's only $4,000, right? Or $3,000, depending on what the payment is. Yeah. So I think that's a smart thing to do, because technically right now, if you go anywhere in LA and you try to rent a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, you're going to pay at least $4,000 anyways for rent, right? I mean, that's what the rents are going for. So the numbers will make sense if you do have some units to offset.
So should someone always take advantage of the FHA loan when given the chance? Always take advantage of it. Don't pay more than you have to, right? Up front. So like, even if I could afford 25%, still go for the 3.5.
No. Well, you could do an FHA loan with more money down if you wanted to. FHA also, there's different guidelines to qualify FHA, right? But the minimum down is 3.5%. Now, would I just put 3.5 and I have more money to put down and stay at 3.5? No, I mean, if you got more money to put down, put more money down. I would definitely say that. But again, you got to look at your situation. Like, do you have let's say, what kind of property are you buying? Are you buying a fixer-upper? Are you buying something already moving condition, right? Is it units or is it single family? Can you afford the payment? Can you not, right?
Question, Christian, yeah. Right? So, 2 things. This young man's about to get engaged, right? Right? Is it okay to say? Did I just blow it right now?
Congrats.
Does your lady listen to the podcast? Okay.
Congrats, brother.
So, can she also, as a first-time buyer, individually, right? Because once they're married, now you're together, right?
Yeah, you can only buy one.
Yeah. Right? So she can buy one.
Yeah.
With 3.5.
Yeah.
And he can buy one 3.5. Now you got 2 properties instead of 1, right? So that's kind of a cool move if you guys are into that.
You could do that.
But But Christian, what about the competition, man? Right? He like, I'm a seller. He comes in with 3.5. You come in with cash. I'm like, I kind of like the cash deal. Like, does that still happen?
All the time. Yeah. Now the market's not as crazy as before. It has slowed down now. When I list a house, I'll get 2-3 offers before, back in 2020, 2021, right? Even early 22, literally we'll list a house, we'll get 20-30 offers like this, right? And everything was overbidding and it was just crazy. And that's why the prices are so high right now, right? Because everything kept going up. Right now, prices are still high. You are getting full price offers. You might get some offers a little over asking, but it's not crazy like before. Maybe 2-3 offers, maybe one offer you negotiate with and you make it happen. So there's a lot more opportunity to get offers accepted right now than before. 3.5. Yeah, I mean, if I have an offer, let's say you're a seller, and I got a full price offer 25% down and a full price offer 3.5% down, which one looks better? Well, there's a good chance that this 25% down offer is going to be, the buyer's going to be, it's going to be easier for them to qualify because of the down payment, possibly the income, maybe they have more reserves, than a first time buyer 3.5% down, qualifying for the FHA loan might be a little more difficult to qualify, right? But not always. Every scenario is going to be different. But it does look better when you have more money down. Now, if I have a cash offer, full price, now it's a cash offer, 25% down, 3.5% FHA, and they're all the same price, of course, you go with the cash offer. Why? No appraisal, no loan contingency. They can close pretty quickly because it's cash, right? The thing is, most cash offers, they're going to, typically they come lower.
Yeah, because it's cash.
They're cash. And I have that conversation with sellers all the time. They say I have a house for $1 million and I get a cash offer for $950 or an FHA for $1 million. I had sellers tell me, Christian, I'll take the lower offer, $950, just because I want to get it over with. I want to get sold. I want to move on, right? And they might take a lower offer because it's just stress-free. Just as, I buy a lot of houses cash too.
Yeah.
From sellers that call me and say, Christian, I want to sell my house. I do not want to list it. I want a cash offer. I want an investor. And I just want it done it quick. I don't want no drama. As is, my house looks like shit. I'm a hoarder. I have issues. I have mold. I have, right?
I don't want no one coming here to a walkthrough or an open house.
I have a court enforcement issue with the city. Whatever, right? Give me a cash offer. And literally, they would rather just go that route because that's what they want. And they just want to get over with, move on quickly. And they'll lose. Not to say they'll lose, but they know because, as an agent, I'm a licensed broker. I have to tell them. I have to disclose. Look, you can sell your house for this much. If I list it, let's say $600,000, but the investor will give you $500,000 cash. What do you want? I'll go with the investor cash offer because I just want to get it over with, right? So it just depends.
Christian, last thing we could talk about is what's happened, and I haven't done much research on this. What's happened with these fees now that, realtor things have changed dramatically? I've heard a lot of things about it. I just never really dove in. Can you explain?
Yeah, totally. So there was a big lawsuit that just happened recently. A lot of things changed August this year.
Okay.
Right? The lawsuit was basically the group of sellers and attorneys sued based on saying that it was not right for sellers to be paying the seller's commission and the buyer's agent commission. Just know that we've been doing this for many, many years. That's always how it's been, right?
Yeah, a seller pays everything, right?
As a seller, I would list your house and say, Opie, you're going to pay 5% total, 2.5% commission is my listing fee, and I'm going to share the commission with the buyer's agent, and we're going to put out 2.5% commission. So the buyer's agent also could represent a buyer and help us bring more activity, and they can bring their own clients. And my goal is to negotiate, get you the highest offer, right? That's how it's been for many, many years, and it's worked. Suddenly, this lawsuit came about saying, well, it's not fair that the seller had to pay the buyer's agent. The buyer should have paid their agent direct. So there's a lawsuit happened, and they lost, right? Millions of dollars. So now NAR went out and they changed the laws for all of us.
NAR, who's this?
The National Association of Real Estate Realtors, right?
Okay.
So now the new law, and there's not a lot of changes. There's only a couple changes, but I think people made it more of a big deal than it really is, right? The changes that happened were this. One, before MLS, the multiple listing services, they used to list what the buyer's commission was on the MLS, right? So I will put my listing on the multiple listing service. I will put all the information, and then there was an area, a section that I would put buyer's agent commission is 2% or 2.5% or 3%. So then when I was searching houses for my buyer, I knew if I show Opie this house, I get 3%. This one I get 2.5%. This one I get 2% or 1%, whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
Commission was being disclosed on the MLS, right? We cannot do that anymore. MLS does not, or they're not showing nationwide at all whatsoever any commission.
Okay.
What's being offered, right? So that's a big change because now we don't really know what we're getting, right? Then two is now when I list a house, I'm only negotiating with you, the seller, what my listing commission is, okay? So instead of coming to you and saying, Opie, it's 5% total, and we're gonna split my commission with the other broker that brings the buyer, I'm only gonna charge you a fee for the listing. 2.5%, 3%, 2%, whatever we agree on, right? The buyer's commission, it's up to the buyer's agent to negotiate when they submit the offer what commission they want. So see, which is kind of good because I actually like this change because now all you're doing is you're committing to paying me a listing fee. Let's just say 2%.
Yeah.
Right? You're not committed to paying any buyer's commission. You can agree on the commission you want to pay the buyer once you get the offer. And if I bring you an offer and I say, hey, Opie, here's an offer, $1 million. Buyer's agent's asking for 3%. What do you want to do?
So hold on. So the seller's still paying.
If you want to, you don't have to. The buyer now, there's another change.
Okay, I thought the buyer was paying. Okay, go ahead.
So the buyer now, that's another change that happened. The buyer now, every buyer that we work with, they have to have a buyer broker's agreement with us, exclusive, or could be, doesn't have to be exclusive, agreeing on paying us a commission when we sell them a house, right? But then we can go to the seller and still ask for the commission. If you say no, now the buyer owes us the commission that we already agreed on.
Interesting.
On our agreement, right? So every buyer now has to be on a contract with an agent before they start looking for homes.
Wow.
That never happened before.
Okay, so what happened to the good old days where you're like, I got I'm selling the property, I have you listed, and then you also find someone else.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, you're getting both ends,
Yeah.
right? Is that still happening or is that still, okay. That's
So
still
I would just say, Opie, look, I got my own buyer.
yeah.
Here's an offer, and yeah, my listing fee is 2%, but I brought the buyer. I want, I'm asking you to pay me another 2%.
Got it.
Right.
Got it.
Now, just know, the conversation that I have with sellers when I list your house is, Mr. Seller, look, you're paying me 2% listing side. You're paying, most likely, you can agree or not agree to do this, but there's a good chance the buyer's agent is going to ask for 2 or 3% on the buyer's side. That's negotiable. Okay?
Got it.
So I'm already letting you know how it is.
Right.
And you as a seller might be like, well, Christian, I don't give a shit. I'm not paying nobody. I'm only paying you 2%. The buyers could pay their own agents. And I have some people like that right now. So when I get an offer sent to me, I let the agent know, hey, on this one, there's no commission being offered at all.
Let me ask you this question. What if you are a buyer's agent, okay? I'm interested in buying Vincent's house.
Yeah.
It's in a wildfire zone. And I say, hey man, this thing it's going to cost me $10,000, Christian, to make this deal happen.
Yeah.
Can I come to you as the realtor, my realtor, and say, hey, Christian, can we negotiate your fees down so I could afford to do this work?
Yeah. All negotiable.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have that issue, right, there's extra costs or fees, whatever. I mean, you could go to the seller.
Obviously, that'd be the first move.
You can hit the agent up too, right?
Yeah.
But see, my job as an agent, and if you ask me that, I say, well, how much money do you want, Vince? What's the credit you're looking for? Well, I want $10,000. Okay, well, let me do this. Let me negotiate with the sellers.
Yeah.
If I can get you that money, great. If I can't, maybe we'll work something with my commission. Yeah, I can negotiate my commission with my buyer. I can negotiate the commission with my sellers.
Right.
Commissions are negotiable.
Right.
Some people don't understand that. Right. Now, do I have to agree on it? No.
Right.
I can be like, no, I'm sorry, brother. I'm not, my commission, non-negotiable. And no, I'm keeping my $20,000. I'm not negotiating anything. You might end up canceling. So it's up to me to say, well, never mind.
Is it worth it? Yeah.
I'll give you some money, right? I'll share some of my commission with you to cover some of the costs. But again, that's up to us.
Yeah. And I think in this real estate market, tied in with the insurance market, I think there's going to be a lot more conversations taking place around the situation that we just described, which is you got a buyer calling us individually saying, hey, I want to make sure that I'm buying something and I know with my eyes wide open what my risk is with insurance and with wildfire. And then negotiations start again, right, with that. So interesting.
I mean, look, I think it's great. I mean, I'm going to wear two hats.
Yeah.
As a buyer, I think honestly, this should be something that at some point should be mandatory, but it's not right now.
Yeah.
Right.
What should be mandatory?
To have some type of fire inspection.
Right.
Especially in some fire hazard zones.
Right.
And to educate the buyers and even the realtors, to know, okay, what do we need to do to make sure that this house doesn't burn down, right? And or at least, maybe it will burn, but maybe not as bad, right? Or maybe it will take longer to burn, and you have an extra 2 hours to be able to, hopefully, take care of it, right?
Yeah.
If I knew that, that's an option.
Yeah.
So this is not. I know because I own a company. We have 300 agents.
Yeah.
This is not stuff that's coming up right now, but
Right.
I think it's something that should. But it's also another, then I put my realtor hat, and it's like, oh man, here's another hurdle we need to go through, right?
First we have mold and termites.
So right now, we got to do the inspection. Then sometimes we got to do the freaking, what do you call it, the sewer line thing now, with the camera, right?
Yeah.
Now, then there's mold. Suddenly, the freaking inspector calls mold. Now we got to do a mold inspection, right? And then the roofer, and then we got a termite, and then we, so there's like all these inspections. Asbestos, big one right now too. The inspector calls the ducts. Oh, I think this might be asbestos. And now we have to go do an asbestos freaking inspection, right? So we have that, and then there's lead-based testing too. Now the inspector says, well, I think this house is, when was it built?
1970s,
51 or 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, I recommend a lead-based. Right now we have to do a freaking hole and do the. So there's all these things we got to go through, right? This could be another one. So as a realtor, putting the hat on is like, okay, do we want that? Of course we don't, because there's more of a chance now the buyer is going to have to make decisions to buy or not buy, or now we have to go back and negotiate. But as a consumer, I guess I would say, it's beneficial, right? Why not have that, especially in some fire hazard zones? So, but that's not out there right now yet.
Yeah, I think more and more it's coming. So we'll see how things kind of pan out in the next couple of years, brother. Yeah. So, well, Christian, thank you very much, man, for coming on. I really do appreciate it. I think we had some good conversations. I think for some of the people that are used to hearing all about wildfire, you got some real estate advice in there as well. Christian, how can people reach you, bro, if they want to talk to you?
Reach me on Instagram. It's Christian Fuentes RTP. RTP stands for Remax Top Producers. Find me on Instagram, send me a message, we'll connect.
Roger that. Yeah. Cool. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Opie.
All right.
That's all for this episode of All Things Wildfire. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to our show and follow us on social media to stay up to date on all things wildfire. And as always, thanks for listening.